So welcome to David Kuany, our 2015 Mandela Washington Fellow, the first of a long journey here at Cambridge College.
Today, I'm summarizing what we have done together. And I should assure you that I have not done anything alone. I have been doing everything together as a team. As I said before, Dean Chela has introduced me perfectly, so just look at that, and that's all what I am. And I said in brief that I am a teacher until every child is educated. I don't know how long it will take me, but it's our responsibility together to ensure that every child has access to education at whatever age. And I know that's why Cambridge College is here, ensuring that everyone gets education, no matter whether you are 90 years or 25 years, you deserve to get education. Whether you come from poor community or from rich family, you deserve to get education. As I said before that I had two main goals. What we call PD is Professional Development Experience, and this is created by IREX or the U.S. State Department to ensure that we get skills, transferable skills that could help us, improve our duties back home. And again, giving or sharing our experiences with host communities, especially when you are here in Cambridge College. If possible, you have something to offer, you could offer. And I know here in Cambridge College, everybody is talented, people are learned, everything is there, but still we have to share our experiences, say this is how we do it, or this is how it is done, and see how we could do it much better. So those are the two main goals: teacher preparation, management of education, and I said before at the level of, that's federal level, state level, and of course at local level. You are familiar with those terms. But of course, as we work together, we realize there could be other things that we could do together, and that is goal number 3 and 4, establishing partnership beyond the 6 weeks PDA fellowship here, and again, mobilizing support for my university. In order to achieve those goals, that's goal number 1, teacher preparation. Dean Sheila and Cambridge College community helped me to reach the people that would give me the right information. And at this stage, we had meeting with state, specialists for educator preparation, that is Center for Elementary and Secondary Education at Massachusetts. We discussed how we could prepare teachers, especially effective educators. It's still goal number 1. I have to meet people who are concerned with teacher preparation here at Cambridge College. And I think you can see some of yourself there. I met the program chairs within the College of Education. And I can tell you it was amazing. I met people with experience who have been in education for service for quite a certain period of time. And they have all what it takes to talk about education. If I am missing something, it is not your fault, it is mine. You have given me everything that I needed. On the same, Dean Chela, Jackie, and Philip, plus myself, we went to one of beautiful and interesting school, IBA, at downtown. That is a multilingual, a bilingual school, speaking English and Spanish. And I met amazing children. You'll see some of them in the next slide. These are kids, and I was, amazed because they were playing a lot of ICT tools, working on computers. Some of them are just as young as 3 years, 5 years. You could see that. And this all goes back to preparation. It goes back to the policies that you set up in order to see what will happen to your kids. Where do you want your country to move to in the next future? And we continued meeting Boston Public Schools, and this is the person in charge of recruitment, and that is at Human Capital Department, trying to understand what kind of teachers they recruit and why they send them to such schools if possible. And I met someone called Adran Mims, and he's working on calculus project, ensuring that children get better results in mathematics, especially calculus. And he was working mainly for the students from okay, students of color, trying to understand why they perform better or why they don't perform better. And I said, this is something to take away because we need always to improve our education. Goal number 2 was the management of education at all the 3 levels, at the federal, state, and local level. And we have done that collectively too. That is meeting President Jackson here at Cambridge College. In this, I think it was in one of these rooms, we had management council meeting, and I was asked to make a presentation. But leave alone the presentation, I just wanted to know also how they manage their college. You can't have this beautiful campus without strong leadership. The same thing that was my presentation on 25th. Also continue with education management. I met Charles Granson. He's not here today. I think he might be seriously committed. He has always attended all the programs involved with me because he's very busy on education management. And he's dealing with leadership in the College of Education. And we had, a lot of ideas being shared together. Title 1 to Title 9. Turn around a school or a school improvement grant that he informed me about. And I got the links that I will always refer to. So the third one, establishing collaboration or partnership with Cambridge College. And of course, this is where my colleague Ron comes in and the South Sudanese community here. We need to share our experiences and of course help each other. Helping each other would mean researching together, would mean working together, would mean seeing the South Sudanese communities here coming to Cambridge College, or members from Cambridge College going to South Sudan. There's nothing wrong about that. Or South Sudanese from South Sudan coming to Massachusetts, to Cambridge College in particular, for kind of professional experience, or actually bringing students to learn here for a semester or for 4 years. That's what we have been working on. I can say it's not yet finished. We have just started. We only laid the foundation, and we hope we will move on with such collaboration. So that involved a lot of meetings with Ron and the members of Cambridge College. This meeting was to brainstorm on what should we do collectively as the 3 interesting communities. Of course, we met Gloria, Dr. Gloria, and she works for My Sister's Keepers. It's an organization that also helps in South Sudan. And she came here to Cambridge College because we needed to have partnership. We needed to understand how we could work together as a team. And she's part of us. Though she's not here today, she has promised to work with us because we are working for communities. Cambridge College is giving services to the communities. The same thing to my university, the same thing to Brown. So we need to serve the communities, and we can't do that without we coming together. We can do it, individually, but I think we can do it much better if we are working as a team. We have done some collaborations before as John Garang University in South Sudan, and one of these was actually working in partnership with Texas A&M here in the United States. And what you see there is what we call greenhouse for agriculture college. And you see those 3 gentlemen from the United States, they were doing research in South Sudan. I would also hope Cambridge College will one time have researchers in South Sudan. We have done this, and I'm glad Mathiang is here, Deng is here, Deng is there. We were in Massachusetts sometime, in New York, to work together and celebrate as a community. So you could see some of our pictures down there. I have discussed this with the council, so I need not to talk much about that. Lastly, my own appreciation to all of you. Nolene has been so great. The first day we came here, organizing everything, and I am happy with that. The Cambridge College community, during the reception, the welcoming reception, I will not forget that very day. All of you impacted a lot on me, and when you welcome me to this community, I felt I am at home and not missing anything. Dean, Sheila, Jackie, you have done a lot to me, and I am very, very happy for all what you have done. I wouldn't have achieved anything without you. And of course, President Jackson, for all the leadership she has for everything she has done, for amazing community that she has here. You can't have these people without strong leadership style. And I would hope to copy her, but there's no time. She's a great leader. Lastly, President Obama, the person who brought me here, and the person who's trying to improve lives in Africa. And the vision of America, America has a goal to achieve. The South Sudanese you see here did not come on their own. It was a plan somewhere from the United States, and that's in the White House, that we should improve or help other people. Lastly, I am not saying goodbye here because we are living in global village. So I'm just saying my journey will be continued. It doesn't matter whether me coming back or you going to South Sudan. We'll meet because Wuor is a global village. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming to show our support and say goodbye or to be continued to our distinguished guest from South Sudan. It's been a pleasure for me to meet David Malual Kuany, and I look forward to seeing you again. My name is Ron Moulton, and I'm Executive Director of South Sudanese Enrichment for Families. We're a 501c3 nonprofit charity here in the Boston area. And we support the South Sudanese community here in eastern Massachusetts. And I just wanted to show you a brief, a kind of high-level timeline or milestone map. Milestones in South Sudanese Enrichment for Families history, and how some of the things that were happening in South Sudan impacted what we did here. So, as you know, the lost boys and girls of Sudan arrived here in 2000 and 2001. And at that time, the civil war in their country had been going on for many years, but unfortunately, it didn't get a lot of notice in the West. And so when the so-called Lost Boys community of refugees arrived here, there was a lot of news reports, and there was a tremendous outpouring of support here in the Boston area from many volunteers who wanted to help this group of refugees that was being resettled here by the State Department. And so we began hearing about their plight and about the history of South Sudan, and we provided different kinds of support informally to welcome them and to help them settle into the Boston area. And then in around 2003, we formed our organization, which was at that time called Sudanese Education Fund. And the focus of that organization when we first found it was to support the educational advancement of this group of refugees that were being resettled. And quite honestly, this group of young men and women considered education their first priority when they came here. It was even almost more important than where they lived or how they were going to survive once they got here. They just wanted to pursue their education. So it made a great deal of sense for us to focus on education needs of the community at that time. And then in 2013, we renamed the organization South Sudanese Enrichment for Families because over the years of managing this organization and providing different kinds of support, we realized that family support for women and children and families, and as well as the ongoing support of others in the community, it was more family focused than it had been previously. And we were no longer a fund that gave out education grants only. We were doing so much more. So we felt like the SSEF name was more relevant at that time. I'll talk about 2015 in a second, but down below are some key dates in South Sudan's history. And the civil war in South Sudan that brought this group of refugees here had been going on for decades. The most recent civil war at the time this group of refugees was resettled had started in 1986. And many in this community of refugees had lived for a decade or more in refugee camps. They had left their homes and their families, lost their parents and families at a very young age and kind of grew up alone in refugee camps. And so when they came here as either teenagers or young adults, education simply was their mother and father. That's a saying that the community has. Education is my mother and my father. And so we did what we could once we formed Sudanese Education Fund and then South Sudanese Enrichment for Families to provide mostly educational support services to this community. And then in 2005, the peace agreement in Sudan was signed that ended the civil war between the North and the South. And that was a milestone for us here because that was when many of the refugees and who had settled here from South Sudan, that was the first opportunity they had to go back and look for their families, to revisit the place that they had to leave as young children. So that affected the community here because many in the community started going back, they started reuniting with their families, and they brought back stories to tell others about, the families that were still living there and the conditions on the ground there. And then, of course, that triggered tremendous outpouring of support from the South Sudanese community here to support their families back home. And that, of course, continues today. And then, as you know, in 2011, South Sudan became independent. So it was no longer Sudan, and it was no longer Sudanese for us. It was South Sudanese. Even though the country of Sudan still exists, the community that we support are all from South Sudan. And 2011 marked the independence. We had a big Independence Day celebration here, and we continue to celebrate the South Sudanese independence each year here in the community. And then in 2015, just this year, we have embarked on a multi-year strategic planning initiative for South Sudanese Enrichment for Families. And I'll talk a little bit about that initiative, but it's begun triggering kind of vision work and an exploration of how we can continue to keep this organization going, continue to support the community of South Sudanese refugees and immigrants here in the Boston area, and how we should kind of redefine ourselves perhaps to keep pace with the changing community. These are a list of some of the programs that we have done as part of SSEF. We've done, as I said, we've given grants out for higher education. I think in all told, some probably 60 to 70 members of the community have gone on and advanced their careers, or their education, and gotten degrees. Many have gotten advanced degrees, master's degrees. And we have one medical doctor from the local community who is now in his residency, I believe. And so the community in many regards has been very successful, and it's partly because of some of the support services that we've provided as part of SACF. But I have to say, as in most cases of success, it wouldn't have been possible without the determination and capacity and capability and diligence of the community members themselves. We also have done a large technology program as part of SSEF. As you can imagine, people who come here from places like South Sudan who have never been exposed to technology, and they move into a world that is practically dominated by technology. There was a huge experience and knowledge gap between this community of refugees and the world they were resettled in. So our technology program is aimed at giving them a boost. So what we did is we deployed laptop computers to virtually every member of the community. We got a tremendous round of funding from a major donor that enabled us to give laptop computers to everyone. But we didn't stop there. As you know, somebody with a lap. I mean, today people can pick up a tablet and an iPad or something, and even kids can figure out how to use it and do amazing things with it. But not so much a laptop, and not so much learning Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all of the things that were required of students going into college, and so these students were at a disadvantage. So we felt that our technology program would help better prepare them to be college students in a more technology oriented education system. And then on top of that, we provided training programs, but we also formed teams from the South Sudanese community and trained them in enough technical support so that they could support their own community. And it was probably one of the most successful things I consider, having ever done in my career, is leading this project, because it was the first opportunity I had where I could take members of a community that, it's easy to say, well, they lack the knowledge. There's no way they can, teach themselves technology. But we kind of twisted that around and discovered that, yes, indeed, we could provide training to a cadre of members of the community, and then those members could then go out into their own community and provide technical support to their neighbors and families who lived around them, their friends, and other households in the South Sudanese community. So that was tremendously successful, and I think even today, most members of our South Sudanese community here recall the technology program and recall getting the first laptop, their very own laptop printer and all of this support. So that was a very successful program as well. And then we've done some cultural preservation over the years. We have a collection of paintings that were done in the refugee camps by some of the South Sudanese refugees who were living there before they arrived here. So we, in partnership with Brandeis University, have a preservation project where we have these paintings and we can put them on exhibit. We have them hanging in our office, and we can also, call on members of the community to explain what the paintings mean. So that's possibly the subject of a future event that we'll do here, is we'll have some of the paintings on display, and we'll have, kind of a reception for South Sudanese art. We've also done a women's program in which we address some of the needs around, childcare and some of the special needs that the women have that we were not responding to with our education grant program or the technology program. We have a program called Saturday Bridges that is a supplemental education program that we conduct every Saturday throughout the school year. And that program is kind of our milestone, our flagship program right now. So we bus and bring families together Saturdays throughout the school year. And we divide the group in by age group. And then we have special supplemental education activities going on in each of the groups. And many of the members of the leaders of the South Sudanese community come in and actually work in that program. So we're beginning to see that leaders from the community are becoming more self-sufficient in providing these services to their own community. And that's actually part of our strategic initiative that we've just started this year, is to build on those leadership skills and expand the utilization of the more advanced members of the South Sudanese community to provide more of the services that we provide as a nonprofit organization. And then we have a summer camp program. Most people in education recognize that during the summer months, if children are not doing anything, they tend to kind of lose some of the knowledge that they gained the previous year in school. And so it's a pretty good idea, most people feel, to keep children engaged with something during the summer. And summer camp, while not really necessarily all that educational, it does provide tremendous opportunities for a group of disadvantaged children who have never had a chance to, it didn't even really know what summer camp was, So, combining education and arts and crafts and, all of the, traditional summer camp experience has been really exciting for the children in our community. Now, the strategic initiative that we're starting this year aims at taking a long-term look at where we expect to see ourselves many years, or years into the future, and we want to get better at designing and implementing programs that serve the needs of the local community, the changing needs in the South Sudanese community. So we want to implement a repeatable process. A process improvement cycle on an annual basis where we do some planning and assessment work. we design some new programs, we implement those programs, and we get better at measuring the impact of the programs and then reporting the results of those programs. Because in the nonprofit world, most people realize that if you can't show impact, then it gets harder and harder to raise money, because most donors want to see, okay, what kind of impact is this going to have? And so by doing better planning and better needs assessment, we feel we can get better at measuring the impact that we're having and reporting that to our supporters. So that's the process goal that we're aiming for. The other goals of the initiative are community self-sufficiency, organizational sustainability, and strategic visioning. And by visioning, we see visioning in 4 levels, if you will. First of all, the community. Where does the community see itself a generation from now? We're going to look, way out. So the men and women in the community now who have children, we're asking the community, what do you want your community to look like and to be like for your children? So by looking way down the road at the next generation, that will kind of give us a vision target that will inform and help us better define our organization vision. So where do we want SSEF to be 5 years from now? Possibly a generation from now, but 5 years from now is usually the maximum length of a strategic planning project, and then we update it each year. But so by looking at where the community is going and what the vision for the community is, and then what the vision for our organization should be in 5 years, then we're going to look at the leadership team, because it's the leadership team, the leaders from the South Sudanese community, that are going to get our organization to where we want to be in 5 years, and to help the community get where it wants to be a generation from now. And so for the leadership team, we want them to ask, who are the future leaders, and how can we nurture those further leaders? And a lot of what we've talked about in the collaboration discussions that we've already had with Malual and Cambridge College is around leadership development, because the same leadership development requirement exists here for domestic support of the community as well as in South Sudan. And David is focused on leadership development for himself and his colleagues and the students that he supports in South Sudan, and we are involved in leadership development here as part of SSEF. And then finally, the vision comes down to individuals within the community. And so for the individuals, we want each individual to say, what is my vision, what is my role, and what is my responsibility? So by looking at, taking this broad approach to vision and breaking it down to 4 levels, all the way down to the individual level, we feel that we can go into the community and inspire each and every individual in the community that we support, as well as all of the individuals that are on our staff, on our board, to ask this question of themselves, to better define the individual role and how the individuals can be part of the leadership team, and how the leadership team can help the organization advance and reach its visionary goal, and how the organization can help the community reach its goal a generation from now. Keys to our success: 1, leadership development, obviously, and 2, community involvement. We know that we can't do this strategic initiative without active participation in the community and buy-in and acceptance of what we're doing. And then strategic partnerships and collaborations. And that really is what brings me here tonight. It's kind of a culmination of several discussions that we've had while David has been here on his fellowship. And it's just been an exciting juxtaposition of our work, because I had been thinking about partnerships and collaborations as part of the long-term strategy for our organization. And I was beginning to think of what education institutions can I reach out to in the Boston area that we can partner with to help address some of the needs of the local South Sudanese community. And then David came in with his fellowship, and we got together at an invitation of Philip Page, I think initially, and then we had all of these wonderful conversations and we have managed to turn around what we all think is a very exciting potential collaboration that will support Malual, David, when he goes back to South Sudan, but it will also support the local South Sudan here. So I'm very excited about this, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I probably talked longer than I should have, but thank you so much.